get into this trade recap, all right? Very simple day. A little bit of an unfortunate break we had here. I'll get into that in a second. Coming in, we had our resistance, we had our support. Same thing every single day. We mark up our charts. Let's get into this. All right, so right at open, we pushed up, okay? Right at open, we pushed up. US 30 was pushing up hard. NASDAQ was also pushing up hard. So on US 30, we broke out, we pushed up. I waited for it to retrace and then push again. So I got in right around this area, I'd say. I used a little bit smaller of a stop loss today. I used a 25 tick stop loss instead of my standard 30 ticks. Was going for a 1 to 3. It did end up getting hit. I hit a 1 to 1.5. With my rules, when I hit a 1 to 1.5, I move my stop loss to half. So I'm risking half of what I was. I then saw NASDAQ starting to retrace very, very hard, as you can see right here. And it flipped bearish. This was before US 30 started pushing down. And then I was like, okay, if US 30 starts to retrace, since they're correlated 95% of the time, NASDAQ and US 30 are going to be correlated. So if US 30 goes one way, NASDAQ is going to follow, vice versa. So when I saw NASDAQ starting to retrace and flip bearish, I was like, okay, if US 30 does the same, I'm going to take out of this trade so this green day doesn't turn red. So when we got to like right here, I decided to take out of this position, and I closed with about 200 bucks, I think, on the day. Not a lot, but it's better than having that come down and stop me out. It did obviously go back up and hit my 1 to 3, unfortunately, but I wanted to play it safe, adapt to the situation at hand. NASDAQ was dumping, okay? Like I said, they're usually correlated, so when I saw US 30 starting to retrace down, I was like, okay, let's take out of this trade and be smart. This could potentially, there's a high percentage chance that this might just come down, fake out like NASDAQ did. So I'm going to take out for a little bit in profit. That's basically the trade recap, but I want to get into a few other things. I'm talking about risk to reward and risk management. Okay, so and adapting really. So in this situation, I adapted to what I saw at right at that moment. I saw NASDAQ reversing, flipped bearish, and US 30 and NASDAQ are correlated. Okay, NASDAQ faked out, US 30 possibly do the same thing. So I decided to close with a little bit in profit, and yeah, it ended up not reversing and it went and hit my take profit. But at that point in time, I saw two confluences that are showing me we might flip bearish and go down. So I'm not going to let this green day turn red. Next is risk to reward. Today, I didn't have the best risk to reward. This obviously, if I would have held out, I would have hit a 3R. You want to have a good risk to reward. My thing is that if you are if you take a trade on Monday, okay, it's a banger. You hit a 1 to 5. That means say you were risking $100 and it hit 5R, you just made $500, okay? And you risk $100 every single trade. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I take 4 losses, trade every single day, but I hit a 5R on Monday. Overall in the week, I'm still up 1R. That's why in my personal opinion, risk to reward is a very, very crucial thing in trading. You need to have a good risk to reward. So if you go on a losing streak, you're not going to be down so much money because you just hit a 1 to 3, a 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Here's another thing, risk management. You need to have good risk management. My thing is you need to pick a number, whatever you're comfortable with risking, and risk that every single trade. What I'm saying is you shouldn't be changing up how much you risk every single day. Today, I risk 500. Tomorrow I risk 1,000. The next day I risk 300. The next day I risk 450. The next day I risk 600. You don't want to be all over the place like that. It's hard to keep track and hard to have good discipline and risk management. Obviously, there's things that come into play, news events, not very confident in these trades and still want to get in them, but de-risk a little bit. That's okay, of course. But my biggest thing is just trying to risk the same amount or at least close to the same amount every single day. All right, that's the video. I just wanted to get into a few simple things. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll be back tomorrow.